our Viewpoints video of Ierusalem from Devir.
Thanks for joining us at Tantrum House Studio 3. I'm Will.
I'm Kevin.
I'm Melissa.
I'm Hannah.
I'm Ryan.
And I'm Jonah, and before we jump into our viewpoints, we're going to give you a brief rundown of how the game plays.
Ierusalem Anno Domini is a hand management, resource management, area control game for 1 to 4 players that plays in about 90 minutes. It's designed by Carmen Jimenez and published by Devir. They sent us this copy for review. In the game, you're playing as followers of Jesus during the events of what we now call the Last Supper. You'll be playing cards from your hand to your player board to activate locations, perform actions, and to move disciples to the Last Supper. The locations give you resources and ways to place more followers on the locations. The actions let you collect parables, perform favors, and send your followers to the Last Supper. Most of your points will come from the location of your followers. The closer they are to Jesus and the disciples, the more points they'll earn. The player with the most points wins.
Alright, so what are some of you guys' thoughts, just in general, about the game? We've played it a couple times now. I know I have at least. I think you guys have played it the most.
I should probably preface this with saying we've all played at 3 or 4 players. Mm-hmm. It does play solo. We haven't tried that. And the 2-player game is different.
Drastically different.
There's different stuff going on in the 2-player game. We have not played that. So our viewpoints are on the 3 and 4 player.
Because that's what we play, 3 and 4 player. I will also say, as you listen or watch our video, there are differing opinions, mixed viewpoints. So not everyone's on the same page for this game. So definitely tune in as we begin. So
should we just split it up right now? Who's on Team Jesus?
I will say
That's funny.
I think one of my favorite things about the game actually is that I rarely see there aren't very many like biblically themed board games, and so
not good ones.
Right. Yeah. Well, even just period. Like there's not. I mean, I can name 5, and so I do think that they've done a really good job thematically of telling a good story, of being accurate to like there's scriptures and things listed in the document, which I appreciated in the manual, and I felt like this was the type of theme that was treated well, like respectfully, but also fun. And one of the things I enjoyed was like making some of those jokes that I don't ever get to make because there's never like an appropriate non-blasphemous version of a game to play. So I'll say toss that out.
I would say it is done in a tasteful way. There's a lot of Latin in the game. You don't need to know Latin, but it is interesting. A lot of the like parables and things in the game, even in the like on the cards and stuff. It's Latin instead of the English version that we would normally.
Well, I think that makes it historically accurate, a lot of that stuff. Is that right?
Well,
the Latin Vulgate.
Latin Vulgate, yeah, sure, but this was like Greek.
Yeah, they spoke Greek.
They spoke Greek and Aramaic and Hebrew in the times.
Okay, I've got a hot take. I'm just going to go out there and say it. I want Will's opinion on it. Here's my hot take. 6 out of 10. I didn't love it. I'll tell you why I didn't love it, but 6 out of 10 is my rating for the game. What's your rating?
What was my rating?
Yeah.
I wasn't ready with numbers. I'm going to go, higher, but not super high. 8, 7, 8, something there. 7.5.
Wow.
Okay, no worries. So one of the reasons why I didn't love it a bunch was because, well, again, let me preface. It's a gorgeous game, actually. It's really beautiful. It's done well. The part where you can sit around Jesus at the table and get closer and score points, I think is awesome. Like, that is cool.
Clever.
Yeah.
The rest of it is what I didn't love. There's a scoring mechanism with some Sanhedrin that like moves up this counter and that can trigger game end. I didn't love that very much. I didn't like that you've kind of got to rely on getting your cards in a certain order in order to trigger some of the disciple movement. And if it's just not happening for you, it's just not happening for you. There's almost nothing you can do. There's a reorder card in there. But again, it's like I'm almost wasting the action to reorder because there was nothing I could do. The cards just weren't there for me.
Yeah, I did have that in the most recent game that I played. I didn't have like the yellow symbol, the desert symbol that I needed to get one of the disciples to the table or score points. I had a bunch of the rocks, I had a bunch of the water. There was no yellow in that I could see to take from the Mahane deck, and I drew, and I'm like, oh, it's another rock.
Yeah.
Now, some of that is based on choices I made earlier in the game, maybe not to pick up one of those symbols, but yeah, if you don't have them, there's And if players are playing well, they're not going to give you favors for that one icon that you're missing.
Absolutely.
Unless, it's Will and he's not really paying attention.
It happens.
The cards are really important. So there's 3 types of cards. You have your own personal deck. You have the Mahane deck, which Melissa mentioned, and then there's the 33 AD deck. I like that you have those 3 decks, but I will say those decks are even restricted in and of themselves because what's in the 33 AD deck, I didn't know this the first time I played, there's only move the Sanhedrin marker in that deck, there's only Be Invited in that deck, and there's only Change Places. I thought, I could get cards from that deck and maybe do some favor actions, or I could.
Sure.
I checked every single card.
Check it, but
Those are the only 3 types of actions in that deck. So
bottom. So you still get the normal.
Yeah, you can still get the normal the
Locations.
location region actions, but on second, the things that you want to do in the game, like I want to do parables, or I want to do favors, or I want to do something else. You're not going to be able to get those actions from that deck. Knowing that, I think, is really key. So that's really important.
Gesture strategy. Yeah.
Also, in the Mahane deck, there's only, I think, 2 of them that let you do favors in the whole deck that have those actions. So your deck itself has more do favors. So if you're going after strategy of I'm doing favors, then you want to go through your own deck. And you don't want to be pulling cards from the other deck, because that would mean that you're going through your deck faster if you don't pull from those other decks. Those kinds of things are really, really important after if you haven't played it before.
Right. Well, I think one of the things that this is kind of what Jonah was mentioning too, and this is always Sarah's complaint with games where it's like you have to rely on the cards to come up. I like those games, like Everdell, I super enjoy because I don't know if I just get lucky. The first time we played this game, I won, and I thought maybe I just got lucky because I was able to get my 3 sets of cards every single time. I don't think there was a single time the first game where I wasn't able to complete
a set.
Yeah, at the same time. So then the second time I was like, I kind of hope that I have a different experience, and I did, definitely. So I wasn't able to complete them all. I did have to do the shuffling, but I did manage to get a lot of parables. I don't know why I got so many, but I was just like, well, parable route it is, and I was able to crush it on the parable rack. So I have been undefeated every time I played. It's probably part of the reason I enjoy it. But I do tend to like those types of card games where I'm like, this is all I got, but I got to make the best out of it.
Sure.
And figure out maybe I can get a favor out of somebody to get that missing token. I like that style of game, I think.
And just to be clear, I was being harsh with my rating. There are really cool aspects to this game. I really like the resource management and kind of getting your, are they the disciples that you start with? Not the disciples.
Followers.
Your followers up to the board. I really like that. I really like the table Jesus, like I mentioned. The parable thing was kind of cool. It's just you had to rely on the cards so much, and I had not a great experience the first time making sure that those cards came out.
I think the 4th player might be a little disadvantaged. I think the 3-player version that I played was more, I felt like it was a little more fair because you did run into, like you were saying, that Sanhedrin track bumped before you even got a turn, and then bumped a second time before you even got a chance to do it, and that would feel broken and frustrated. So
I agree with Jonah. He said earlier, the main part of the game, the followers around the Last Supper table, is feels like that's the meat of the game, the big part of the game. You're trying to get followers, put the followers on the table. The parables and the doing favors and the other things just feels to me a little tangential, maybe a little peripheral to what you're doing in the game, or to the main part of the game. So I agree with Jonah. It just feels like there's this really cool thing, and then there's these other sort of things that are happening. So, although it sounds like Will got lots of points from the parable thing, which I understand, it just feels like, all I'm doing is collecting parables. It doesn't feel like the meat of the game, personally.
I agree. I think a lot of Euros have that type of feel where it's I don't really know what this side thing is, but I'm getting points off of it, so I'm going to keep doing it. Hannah, you haven't talked. Tell us your thoughts.
Well, so I'm going to say yes to most everything. So I do have positive and negative things to say about the game, because I was very leery about the religious heavy game because I haven't seen that done well. And I was really impressed. I think you could reskin it with any other Euro-style fantasy game, Roman theme.
I've thought of an idea.
And I think it would still work. It doesn't have to. It isn't yes, the religious theme comes out really cool and they do it really well, but I think it could be reskinned, still be the same game.
Cattle ranching.
There you go.
That's the one I thought of off the top of my head.
Who's in the middle? What do you got?
So you have your ranchers, and you're trying to get your cattle to the ranch, and where your cattle are really does. I'm just saying, it's just the one that off the top of my head, I'm like, I could make that work.
So yes, it can be worked for other things. What is really cool is the multiple times I played it, you can do multiple strategies. You can completely pivot, and sometimes it's really obvious in a game that you can only go one direction. This is the only way you can go. There are multiple tracks you can take in this game, and that's awesome, especially if you get frustrated because the cards aren't coming out right. You can pivot and still do well, but it is both a positive and negative drawback of the game. But the icons themselves on the cards and also on your player aid board, there are so many symbols in this game that are similar in tone and similar in color that are extremely difficult and complicated to. It takes a while to understand what you're doing. Those first couple hands you're playing, you need an experienced player to be like, okay, what does this mean? Which symbol am I going for?
Sure.
Me saying the call of follower action.
Cauliflower.
I constantly kept saying cauliflower.
Yes.
Instead of call. So some of those are very complicated, but I think it's a decent worker placement game. I would not say it's going to be my favorite game I've ever played, but it is a decent worker placement
See,
game.
I would say it's not worker placement at all.
So what would you call it?
Hand management for your cards, and
Okay.
then you are putting people at the table, but it's not like you're not getting actions from that. You're getting some resources.
Yeah, so there's the resource
It's
management.
area.
Yeah.
I would say area control.
Okay.
Because you're trying to control the areas, and there is player interaction. Because some of those cards and some of the rewards let you swap positions. So you go to a really cheap spot, and then later swap for Will's spot right in front of Jesus to get more points.
So if
Because we
you
all know Jesus' followers were just cutthroat. Like,
Well-
no, I'm closest to Jesus. You
Well-
sit at the back.
I mean, there are Bible verses about it.
they did have arguments about that. James and John.
Their moms
and,
were trying to sneak them in there.
And I will say, you do not have to come from a heavy religious background to enjoy this game. Like, this isn't so heavy that if you know nothing about the Bible or the New Testament, like, you can still play the game and enjoy it. It's not proprietary knowledge. But if you're in a catechism class, if you're in a youth group, if you have some sort of Bible class, I think it would be really good and you would enjoy it.
I'm not sure I've ever heard of a catechism class, to
So
be
that-
honest. But it's fine. What I was going to say is I actually disagree with you about the iconography.
Really? Yeah.
Because here's why. I recently played a game with just as many icons with no player aid, and I wanted to cry. So because they have a player aid, I'm fine with it.
Okay.
I'm fine with it.
You definitely do need a
There's
player.
icons in the game, and here's
the
my
player
cheat
aid
sheet
was
for the icons.
very
And
Okay.
I'm okay.
Well, one nitpicky thing along with icons
You didn't say I
is
disagree yet.
the art is kind of a blend of like modern gaming art with some like Greek Orthodox.
Sure, I can see that.
Yeah.
art, and
Craft.
it's almost jarring. It's not really, but I would have liked it to just be homogenous.
Okay.
I was a little torn on that. I kind of agree. Like, there could have been a little more symbiosis. Is that a word? I just made that up. Between the two. But I also feel like they probably... It wouldn't surprise me if it was intentional, because I think if you went one way or the other too heavy, like, you probably alienate your audience. Like, it becomes like this is a Catholic game, or this is a Sunday school game, or this is a whatever game.
It's something more of a Euro game with a
Right.
theme that fits. with it.
The biggest piece in the game is the chunky Jesus tile unnecessary.
Right, they could just
But
paint it on.
Why is there a chunky Jesus tile?
He's not chunky.
But it's so you can have enough
meaty
people
tile.
around him to have more points.
Well, I think
Yeah, you could just paint it on the board though. I don't know. Maybe it's for
You
an
could.
expansion that they're gonna do.
Maybe.
the tile does draw emphasis
Yes.
to it and the placement of it, because all the other spots you are putting meeples. How about those stickers, Kevin?
Yes.
Yeah, let me talk about
Oh.
stickers.
The
Yes.
stickers are nice.
Absolutely.
Well,
They're
It
super good looking.
I will say it took me hours to do. The stickers themselves are they're on almost everything, on the resources and the meeples and all that. And the resources themselves, for like the fish, they're double-sided, so there are different types of stickers for one side of the fish, and there's different types of stickers for the other side of the fish because of the way that they're made. So
they're cut.
the way they're
That's
cut.
You should have
It
given it
was-
to Amy. Amy's like,
Amy could have helped me with that.
Just-
It was just
If
like,
I'm excited to play and I open it up and it's like, put the stickers on, and then I realize like the left side of the fish needs this sticker and the right side of the fish needs this sticker.
Only the left
That
side.
particular evening, it might be like a, ooh.
Yeah.
I wasn't prepared. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
We-
The rule book does say that all the stickers are optional.
I was already halfway through.
And some people, that's a big draw, that they went through the effort of making 2 different sides.
Yeah, it's similar to sleeving your cards for certain games. It's that kind of.
You just have to watch our video first, so you know that you
Yes.
gotta have some time to put the stickers on. Because again, if I've got time, then that's really cool. But if I was like, oh, I just got it, let's play, and then I realized that, I would have been like, oh.
I mean, and I will also say, I wrote a note here. It actually took me a little bit of time to figure out which, for the apostles have stickers as well, which stickers go on which apostles. But I was like, oh.
I did stop Kevin from putting one of the other languages in because they have
they had
stickers
all the
for
languages
each.
for all the apostles.
Oh,
Yeah.
I was like deficient.
So
different
there-
Well, like German and French and Italian and all that. And I was like, oh, well, we want the English names on these apostles. I mean, you can put other ones on there if you want, but that's what we wanted on ours. And it just took me a little bit of time to figure out which ones were which. Judas was easy.
Maybe
I knew which one was
maybe
his.
I would have gave it a higher rating if you put like a different language on them.
That's true. You could.
Right? So,
The one
feel
theme,
jaded.
going back to theme just one more second, I wanted to say, it was a little odd for me, thematic-wise, that you were purchasing followers. For most of the time, you're purchasing followers and putting them in the different regions. Like, one of the regions was $1, another region was $2, another region was $3. It didn't really make thematic sense to me.
Maybe you are giving them the money that they need to travel to that location.
That's how I took it thematically. They were going out into the world to collect those resources with the money from Judas's purse.
So talking about theme, some people are bringing bread and fish to the Last Supper, and other people are bringing rocks.
Stone? Yeah. What's the reason? I like the bread and fish.
I don't
Is
know.
that like
maybe,
a
maybe they
throw
need a stone to
first stone?
sit on.
How do we know it was a stone? It kind of looked like a pillow.
No, it was
It
definitely
says
stone.
stone.
Oh, that's the other thing I do want to mention.
Yeah.
The resources are really important and when you're picking them from the different regions, in the rulebook it says to place them on the outside of the main board. But in the rulebook there's a picture of them of those resources on the different regions. Totally go that way. So the rulebook written says one way, but picture-wise says the other. You want to do what the picture says because it was so much easier. Oh, I'm going to the desert. I'm getting stone there. But the sand on the desert color and the bread color are the same yellowish color. And I'm always thinking, oh, I'm going to the desert to get the yellows because my brain just picks colors up faster. And I multiple times was picking up the wrong thing.
When we had the resources on the
And
off
actually
the board.
when they're off the board too. On the on the board too.
Oh
I often thought of mountains and rocks as those just go together in my mind. You get rocks from the mountain.
Right.
Yeah.
But they
Often
weren't.
has it.
Sand has the rocks, and
Yeah.
the mountains has bread for some reason.
So obviously we have a lot of opinions about this game.
Yes, I had a couple of.
And some more. We're still going.
Bullet point number 3.
While he's thinking and
Longest
looking at his
video.
notes,
Yes.
there is player interaction in the game we talked about. There's some shuffling of the followers. Also, you're determining where you place the disciples on the table, and certain ones are worth different amounts of points. There's Judas, he's going to be worth negative points. So if you see someone has a bunch of their followers in a row, you could plunk Judas down there and give them negative points.
I thought that was
instead of-
cool. I mean, even looking at the game, being introduced to the rules, it was like, yeah, you're going to put the disciples out. They're all points. Judas is negative points. And I was like, okay, yeah.
So the one other negative I have is I wish there was equal number of turns in this game because it's so dependent on the card play, and I have to get 3 cards down in order to do the main things, and someone else could end the game before I could play that last card to finish. I was ready that round to do. I just really feel, for me personally, I wanted equal number of turns, but it's really dependent on a lot of factors that are going into the game. So just personally, I was like, if that Sanhedrin track reached the end, everyone gets finish the round out or something. That's just me.
I feel like the favors are such a big boost for the person you're handing it to, and I am not good at receiving them. Like, it's hard for me to manipulate people into being like, yeah, give me a favor.
Yeah, but they're not worth
So-
any points.
Yeah, but you
Like,
can complete
No,
sets.
they
parts
are
of-
worth points because you complete sets earlier, and the sets are worth points. So you're getting less points because you're doing only 2 out of 3 cards, maybe.
Okay.
But you're getting them faster.
So you think you
And,
can turn them over
that
more.
lets you get the apostles out faster.
Okay.
Which I think actually
Connect
is
things quicker.
the other point that Melissa and I were talking about was groupthink with with when you're completing sets, because once you complete that third card or when you complete a set, you don't have to turn them in that round. You could hold.
Yeah, I think this game will feel very different based on whether you have an aggressive, really competitive group,
Absolutely.
or more of a casual, like cooperative type of group.
Yes.
Because you can put your cards out of order and kind of hide what you're doing and then do a redistribute and bam, oh, I didn't know you were going for that apostle.
points.
Or, hey, yeah, I have this set complete, but there's no good place for me to put this apostle right now, so I'm not going to complete it now. And then how much you move people, where you place them.
And
So
same with your favorite tokens. I was always giving my favorite token to whoever it helped the least.
Or like,
Rather
oh, you
than
don't
like,
really
let's
need
help
more
you
money,
out.
so here's
Right,
more money for you.
exactly.
Absolutely.
Favors.
Yeah.
Good, generous.
Yeah,
fellow.
I had several favors, but they weren't the icons that I needed to complete the followers, so it didn't help me as much.
I did like the little icons that you're using to complete the disciple and get him out. They can be customized and changed every single game.
Yep.
That was such a unique component way of making it different every single game. It felt completely different, and you didn't get stuck with, because there's always going to be one icon that's only going to have one on that track, and you're not stuck with that every single turn.
I mean, you could literally have like desert, mountain, if if it's random.
And I really enjoyed it way better when it was random than the base
set
one.
Okay.
There you have it.
Yeah.
Lots of opinions. We'd love to know what your thoughts are. Give us your comments in the description of the video or in the comment section, and we'll be happy to answer whatever questions you have and let you know what additional thoughts we might have based on your questions. And if you've had a chance to play it, we'd love to know what your thoughts are. Did they line up with anybody at the table? Couch? Can't ever do it. I think that's about it. Thank you guys so much for tuning in, following along, liking, and subscribing to our videos here at Tantrum House. Cool. It is finished.
Bye.
It is finished. Yes, you just said it. That's amazing.
JB. Oh, good start.
It's unfocused again.
To the left a little bit.
Can you see all the
Left
legs?
Because your whole right shoulder is like.
You see this?
Everybody on the couch.
Okay.
Looking good. That's a great looking thigh.
You should have said Anno Domini the first time. For sure.
Definitely.
For sure the first time. Sorry.